We need a leader who's not in the pocket of big business, but answers to the working man, union and non-union alike.
Oh yeah, Trump and the working man. We were talking about this earlier. All this week at the RNC, the Republicans have been pushing this pro-worker rhetoric to convince voters that they do actually support the unions and the entire working class. Well, contrary to what they would like you to believe, Project 2025 proposes an extreme anti-worker agenda that would severely curtail unions' ability to collectively bargain on behalf of their members and reverse gains organized labor has made in recent years. Let's go into a few of those policy proposals. They have their anti-worker policies. It says it seeks to revert to a Trump-era law that allows employers to categorize workers as independent contractors, thus denying them benefits and legal protections extended to employees. It significantly dismantles safety protections for workers by directing Congress and the Department of Labor to exempt small business, first-time non-willful violators from fines issued by the Occupational Health and Safety Administration. And it argues that due to worker shortages in dangerous fields with parental consent and proper training, certain young adults should be allowed to learn and work in more dangerous occupations. And Project 25 seeks to roll back New Deal era labor victories by proposing that Congress pass legislation allowing waivers from federal labor laws like the National Labor Relations Act and the Fair Labor Standards Act under certain conditions. Project 2025 promises actually to fire the leader of the National Labor Relations Board, Jennifer Abruzzo, on day one. That's what they say. It also calls for reductions in the budget of the NLRB and the Department of Labor to the low end of the historical average, as well as implementing a hiring freeze for career officials. They would further undermine unions by eliminating card check, where a majority of workers who have signed union authorization forms can ask their employers for voluntary recognition, and mandating the secret ballot exclusively. This attack is coming as workers are voting to join unions at the highest rate in 15 years, which could explain why they're so scared of workers right now. Take a look at this. This is a share of National Labor Relations Board elections that resulted in union certification from 2008 to April 2024. It's quite a spike at the end there. And as we learned with that last story, workers need representation now more than ever. It seems to be a cyclical thing that we see throughout history, but I think it's one of the inevitabilities of capitalism. Capitalism is all about maximizing profits and minimizing cost. And one of the biggest costs to big business is labor. Adrienne, what do you think of this?
No, you're absolutely right. And the thing that seems to have shifted from years ago is how much the disparities in wealth is between the worker and the CEO. Our society is really advanced this whole thought of capitalism to the point where everyday individuals cannot afford basic things like healthcare and housing. And because of that disparity, we are going to see more individuals rise up, join unions, because they need to advocate on their behalf, because CEOs and leaders are no longer thinking in terms of the thought that every individual should be able to at least afford having a roof over their head. No, it's become more concentrated in the idea of I need to accumulate as much wealth as possible, the workers be damned. And we're seeing that continue to play out. And so these individuals at Disney who are fighting, I definitely think that they need to continue to fight and continue to push. And when it comes to the Project 2025 agenda, we need a lot more employees to join unions and to step up and to speak up and to hold their employers accountable.
Yeah, it's actually really encouraging that we're seeing more people want to join a union, and they're trying to make that happen, even with all of this opposition that they're getting from, just their managers, but also all the way from the top, all these big CEOs who are trying to stifle their unioning. Unioning, is that a word?
Unionizing. You're good. You're good.
Thank you very much. Unioning. I've been listening to too much Trump. That's what happens, I guess. You just make up words.
Yeah,
but
I do too.
It is encouraging to see all of that, because at the very least, people are starting to understand that they need some kind of bargaining, and they're understanding that collective bargaining, that's where it comes from. The United States is such an individualistic society. And I think part of that comes from the top, right? Because they want us to feel like individuals. They want us to feel like our problems are our own problems and we're the only ones who can fix it. When the reality is that we need to work together. It's like in what I was just talking about this, A Bug's Life, that movie where the grasshoppers didn't want the ants to know how much power they actually had. Yeah. So they wanted to keep them separate, because if the ants realized that they have strength in numbers, they would rise up and the grasshoppers wouldn't be able to do anything about it. So Adrienne, any thoughts on A Bug's Life or the real life version of it?
I have not seen A Bug's Life, but I have lived this life, and you are spot on with that analogy. It's the divide and conquer. Don't show people how much power they have. I'll offer you an extra $1 an hour if you don't do this or that, when really we need to come together and recognize that we are stronger together. And we have to change this game, because the capitalism game is not going to save any of us. It really isn't.
Really isn't. Yeah, something's got to give. I think that there is some good to be found in maybe just actually having more of these social programs that are meant to support people in cahoots with capitalism. I think that's actually a compromise that a lot of people would be on board with, but there's so much messaging that is distracting people from that. Just the word socialism is such not a non-starter for so many people these days. They liken it to to communism, which isn't quite where we're at. But hopefully we can get somewhere closer to where we were supposed to be all along.
Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.